huh?
Yes, I
Just
am.
quit.
So,
Anytime something gets difficult, you just fucking quit.
so it should be going again now. Tell me if you can see it.
I need a link to it. Cause I got out of it.
I need a
Yep, it's back. It's back. I'm back.
Can you like?
Oh shit!
Link?
Yes, I can. You losers.
Thanks.
Fuck! I gotta find the new link. Here, there.
It's on Facebook. I sent it to you. You losers.
You didn't send it
there
to me.
it is.
Yes, I did.
Hey.
Oh, you didn't?
Yes, I did.
Now you did. You fuck.
No.
Hey, we're back.
We're back.
Yay.
Technical difficulties aside, here we go again.
Is it still laggy and busted? How's the sound? Hello?
Hello.
I asked you guys a question. Both of you got really silent.
Well, I can't tell you what the audio's like. We need the people from the stream to tell us that. Because it's fine for me. Hey, you fine fellows in the stream.
You got one person saying it's great. Everything's fine.
It's filled with brutes who control this city through
It seems fine. Okay.
Okay, we back in business.
We back, boys.
I'm gonna fight you.
I'm gonna butt the kick.
Slap you with a belt.
You're gonna fight you with Batman's prodigious posterior.
There's nothing refined about it.
Oh god, I gotta fucking find I gotta share the link to this again so people can find it.
Yes.
Tell all your famous friends to join. It's cool to have people who actually, like, matter on the chat.
Now I can access the SIM card I took from that arms dealer. And
Fuck
hack
you
David's
too then, man.
communications.
God dang.
Come over to my house.
I forgot where you live. Like, I know it's like about an hour away, but I can't be fucked to remember where specifically.
I'm reading a signal from Penguin's men.
I love how, like, because, like, whenever we hang out, I always go to his house because he has, like, a better AV setup than I do and, like, not shitty internet. So, like,
I also just have a better room for more people to hang out in.
true. So, like, we always go to his house.
Bed, 7 bookshelves, and a tiny desk, and a dresser that takes up all the walking space. It's like trying to hang out in a closet. While as when we hang out at my house, we have the whole basement, which is like essentially just a fucking an extra living room that's just for us.
Well, it would have a basement, except that my mom just fills it up with stuff, like, completely head to toe.
With books. There's so many books.
Not
in
books,
house.
not books. Other random shit.
If you ever want to assassinate a president, David's house is perfect. It's a book depository.
Listen, I mean, I made a short film when I was in high school about about like a whodunit murder mystery, about how, like, somebody was murdered with a book. So that checks out.
Hold on.
Are you just looping around this fucking building?
How did we get to this conversation?
It's best not to question it.
Why are you just swinging around this building in a circle? I bet someone's gonna, like, see Batman out of their window and be like, what the fuck is that idiot doing? Hold on. Okay, William, I have a stupid question for you. Which Ace Chemicals did the Joker origin happen in this universe? Was it that one over there that's just kind of hanging out in the middle of the map and doesn't appear big enough to know what it is? Or is it the actual one from, like, Arkham Knight that's like a giant stupid fortress that's built off the edge of the city and is like feels like a prison island rather than just like a small business?
Also, another question. Can we find the Ace Chemicals that Harley Quinn blew up in her solo movie in this game?
Oh god, no.
And to answer Davey's question, fuck if I know. Like, how can I just broke the entirety of the fucking continuity with its design? Because Gotham City doesn't look anything like Gotham City. Not
If you look at the skybox over there, like just turn your head to the left while you're in the open world, you see this big ass like New York style, like tall skyscrapers,
Yeah.
like, and then in like when you're actually playing like the Arkham Knight map, there's only one island that has like 3 buildings that tall.
It's a fucking island for some reason. Like, why? Just
Well,
make it
okay.
inside fucking city, the pussies.
Well, okay, if they can't give you like stupid progression blockers, you know, oh the bridge is out, I can't get over there, unless they have it be separated into islands, which is stupid because you're Batman and you can just glide to the other side, like artificial. I mean, I guess they were just like, it won't be the same unless you have a Batmobile with you, but like. It's like Grand Theft Auto 4 style like mapping, where because you remember GTA 4, it was a chunk of they had Manhattan, like the island, a chunk of Queens, and like a chunk of whatever city is like on the opposite side of Manhattan.
Whatever there is in that dystopia that we call New Jersey.
Yeah, like adjacent, like Manhattan, like the other side, opposite Queens, with Manhattan in the middle. But they had all those three sections, but then they split them up into like 6 islands. So Manhattan is like the same exact shape from the overhead, but just randomly has like 2 rivers cutting through the middle of it. It's weird, but like it works for that game because it's like it's a pain in the ass to get to the other islands unless you just actually cross the bridge with your car, you know? And like, oh, the bridge is out, but then you know once you can finally get across, that doesn't work for Batman because you can just like Batwing over or like fucking just fly there with his cape. Like I don't know why the Gotham City in this universe is composed of 5 separate islands of equal size.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it was I feel like by Arkham City, from the way the background, like the backdrop and everything was set up.
I also love how they mix their metaphors in the Arkham games so much, or rather, in Batman in general, because like we used to think that like it's supposed to be Chicago, but like what city is is whatever city Gotham is supposed to be really changes depending on the movie, and sometimes between the same iterations in the same series it becomes a different city.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, Gotham City is canonically in New Jersey. Like,
Well, that explains why it's such a shithole.
Actual DC, but yeah, in the DC universe, that's oh hey, someone's asking to turn up our audio again.
Okay, I'll turn up, give me 1 second, and I'll turn up the audio of the voices, so you can hear it against the... Because earlier I turned it down, because you were kind of loud.
Yeah, we bastard. Yeah, we shot.
Yeah, but like the audiences didn't mind it, so...
You wanker. You funny.
That wasn't remotely close to Australia.
You fanny? You funny?
What the fuck? What are you
I'm
saying?
trying to be Scottish, okay?
You're trying to be Scottish, you're trying wrong.
I know.
Fucking buffoon.
Yeah.
You daft bastard.
Ah, bastard.
Cunt.
I don't know. I'm not a fucking octopus, you daft bastard.
You're a wizard, Harry.
You wee shite.
I won't be
I'm
able
not a
to find
fucking
you.
wizard, Hagrid.
SIM card for walkie-talkie.
I'm
You're a
Harry.
wizard.
I didn't know that...
It's a good video.
It is a good video. Have you seen Welcome to what is it? Welcome to Hogwarts? Like the sequel to that?
Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
seen Harry Potter Puppet Pals? Because that was the shit.
What was that?
Find the next comm station.
You haven't seen Harry Potter Puppet Pals?
You gotta send us a link to whatever that is after the stream. You know what? I don't know. I may have seen it and then forgot
hey,
about
Becky.
it. Hey, Becky.
Hello, Becky. You fatty.
Is Diego still in the stream? He said hi for like 2 seconds and then disappeared.
I don't know. He might have left. He might have left when like the stream died.
Oh, he might have to work being a hero and saving lives and whatever.
Yeah, but
Nerd.
it's really back to the stream anyway.
Only nerds save people's
Cool guy
lives.
with his job that's like helpful and he's like doing it.
Productive, a member of society. Only
Only
losers are
nerds do, like,
productive.
productive stuff, but like Chads,
Gone back.
like, we stay at home and play games, bro. We like smoke weed and shit, bro.
I've been social distancing for 5 years, bro.
I feel like all the people.
What was that?
I feel like all the people who are like saying, "Oh, you know, gamers are prepared for this quarantine," are secretly like deeply sort of like they're trying to pat themselves on the back for realizing that other people.
For validation.
Yeah, because because they're suddenly realizing that other people don't behave like they do, and other people actually go outside and have friends. And like me included, I was part of that too.
You tried to mock my lifestyle, but like, look who's laughing now, bro.
Instead of
Why do you sound like Steve-O?
instead of
Who?
minority of the population.
Wait, who'd you say, Xavier?
I said, why do you sound like Steve-O? Because you have like such a rasp in your voice, but you also sound kind of like just like a
Probably
goofy
because
bro.
it's intentional. Because I was probably like trying to.
Do you know who Steve-O is?
Yeah. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, he was that guy that was on an episode of Game Grumps.
Who?
What's a Game Grumps, bro? Like, dude, what's a fucking Game Grumps?
David, did you just fuck up that fucking Riddler puzzle and give up and run away? I could just like the hook thing is kind of an orifice on the question mark.
How do you like me now, Edward Nigma?
Edward Enigma.
Immediately. What if Batman was just like? What if Batman was just like this complete fucking dude, bro, who's like bullying Riddler like he's a nerd in high school, like he's like solving his riddles and like just stuffing him into lockers and like doing like gross shit, like hey Nigma, why don't you put your hat back on? I feel like you look better with it. And then Riddler puts his hat on and goes, it just squishes. He goes, oh my god! Batman just bursts out laughing.
And I can imagine Batman with the fucking like keyboard to rap a lot. Yeah, bro. I'm still sounding like Steve.
Avenge my fucking parents, yo!
Yes!
Tonight, bro.
I have one
Felt bored,
rule,
might
yo!
You sound like fucking like Jesse Pinkman. From like, I've got like one rule, yo, bitch.
No, it needs more rasp and depression.
Ooh woo.
Whoa! Big donation from the Beckley. Would you guys say Arkham Origins is underrated as people say, or does it deserve to be overlooked?
I don't think it's really has that much to be proud of, honestly.
It's kind of in the middle. Like, now that I'm like replaying it and like seeing it again, and like all of the memories are flooding back, and now that I'm like getting a better idea of what this game is overall in my head, I'm realizing, yeah, it's pretty meh, but like at the same time,
It's got
like,
some decent moments, but it's overall kind of disappointing.
It's got some cool moments. It's not the like hot garbage. Like, it's not unworkable. There's some stuff in
We
here
were all
that has
spoiled by how
overall.
good the other games were, and then we were like, maybe a little bit unfair to this one, but still, it just doesn't quite measure up.
Yeah, like, it's just, it doesn't quite live up, but it's not like, you know, if this one came out first, it would be a fucking masterpiece. But like,
Oh yeah.
I think that's the problem, is that like, the fact that it's all reused stuff, or it just doesn't really add anything to the series, like, it's like nothing new. This one was the first one that they came out with, and then like Asylum was like a sequel. Like, that would be fucking awesome. You sure, like, add more connectivity between them, and like, you know, this is an alternate universe in particular, where like Asylum actually feels like a sequel to this instead of the other way around. Because like, when you play them in the order of release, which we were talking about how playing them in chronological order doesn't work. Playing them in order of release doesn't really work either, because like you're just like coming hot off the trails of like two like big major successes, and then it's just like here's kind of a like a subtle miss, you know.
Here's a subpar but not entirely irredeemable entry in the series.
And
Yeah.
but like as a part of a franchise that makes it hurt worse, because like subpar, when you know the bar has been set so high, feels a lot worse than it is. If you just play this game in a vacuum, like if you never play any of the other ones in the series in any order, you just don't touch them, and this is the only one you play, probably really fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess that's all I have to say about that.
I sort of pitched this idea in like a private group chat just when we were hanging out, but remember that, like the idea of instead of making Arkham Origins while like people were waiting for Arkham Knight, what if like WB had instead made like a game based on like a comic series, like Batman Year One, for instance, or like Batman Beyond, and that would have been like the sort of in between game between like this, you know, weirdly big fucking release and the one that came before it,
And
as opposed to like having it in the same fucking universe and like making everything so convoluted because they need to like figure out a way to, you know, innovate gameplay, make it look fresh, but at the same time try to figure out a way to like make it fit within the continuity, because that's a big fucking task. Like you have to balance so many
we've talked
things.
about this before, is like the reason this one doesn't really work is because it's handcuffed to the other two games. It can't really stand on its own no matter how hard it tries.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, as an entry to that series, it just doesn't really work, because it feels like a standalone game, and all the connections added to the rest of the series were like an afterthought. It's just so weird. Like, this could have easily just been a reboot to start the series over, and it almost felt like it was, if it just didn't have Arkham in the name and just like kind of dropped all pretenses about setting that shit up. It almost probably would have been like, you know, more interesting.
I mean, yeah, like if you think about it outside of the context of the Arkham games, this could totally be a standalone game. I mean,
By the way, TX Taylor says, Xavier, what do you think of the RA3 remake? I was a little let down by it. I feel like, because, you know, we're talking about how Arkham Origins is a weird kind of pseudo-sequel made with, like, all just pre-made assets to just, like, hold off for another major sequel to come out. It's like Resident Evil 3 was already that 20 years ago, so, you know, repeating history and making it exactly that again, and then, like, it was already, like, kind of disappointingly short and, like, lacking for content. So cutting even more stuff out of it for RE3 just felt like, what are you doing? Like, why? Why would you cut things out? Like, it feels rushed and kind of unsatisfying. I really wish Nemesis was what we all imagine him as, because he's pretty big letdown too. It's just, I don't know. I don't hate RE3. Like, I've played it like twice now, and I quite enjoy it, but it just feels undercooked, you know? Like, it's not as good as it could have been, and that's sad to see.
I wish I knew what you were talking about, because I don't play these games.
Zach gave a $5 donation and said, remember when WB said this took place 5 years before Asylum, which means about 50 stories, 3 Robins, and 50 villains all in 5.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a problem with New 52, is that, fucking New 52 is like a hard reboot of the whole DC universe, and they're like, okay, everything that's happened so far since, like, Superman's first appearance, and, like, every single story has taken place in 5 years, and that created a bunch of problems where, like, Damian Wayne couldn't have been 10 years old anymore, so they had to write some bullshit about how he's a clone who had accelerated aging to be 10 years old. It's like, well, if you could do that, why not just stop him at, like, 20? Well,
Let's talk about the New 52.
I like...
because I don't know if David
Of everything I've read, I like the Scott Snyder Batman run, and I just didn't touch anything else because I didn't hear anything positive about anything else, so I just didn't want to waste my time, because, like, I had dabbled in reading the Scott Snyder run and just like immediately was like super hooked on it, and I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna go reading stuff that I know is probably not going to be worth it.
That's fair. I mean, I'll be honest.
You say that a lot. You say that a lot. That's fair.
That's fair.
Fat's there.
That's fair. I mean, it's fair that I say that's fair. That's fair.
Quantum Fire. Are you saying remake like 1 is the best in the Resident Evil series, or remake 2? It's also fucking funny to me that like there's 2 versions, the original trilogy of that series. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna play some Resident Evil 3. Which one? Hey, what'd you think of Resident Evil 2? The old one or the new one? Oh yeah, I love that level in Resident Evil 1. You mean the remake?
Watch them remake the remake like 10 years from now.
That's
So what do you think
almost
of the
what
Resident
fucking...
Evil 3 remake? Which one?
Jesus, what is this? A comic book or something?
Oh. Hey, which version of Spider-Man's origin do you like best? Do you like best Spider-Man Season 1, Amazing Fantasy 15, fucking Ultimate Spider-Man issue 1 through 5, what was it? Marvel Amazing Fantasy something Spider-Man. There was one that had like this really cool painted art style. Forgot what it was called.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
There's Spider-Man, what was it called? There's another one where they tried to like soft reboot the whole series and like retell all the first, like all the original Ditko stories, but in the 90s. They added like a bunch of stupid retcons. Like they added a stupid retcon where like Doc Ock was the one who accidentally gave Peter his powers through an explosion, and like that was like the only new thing they added. And then in order to tie into that, oh yeah, Chapter 1. That's what it was. Spider-Man Chapter 1. That one sucked. Yes, Becky. Spider-Man Mythos. That was the other one I was thinking was the cool painted art style, and Conan O'Brien was in it for one panel.
Yeah.
Unless I'm thinking of season 1. I don't know. It gets confusing. And then there's also like Spider-Man with great power, which adds a bunch of crazy bullshit, like kind of prior to Uncle Ben's death, where it's like, oh yeah, Spider-Man was like a wrestler and a famous celebrity for like a couple months, not just like a week or two, and in that time he became an alcoholic. He started like he ran away from home for several weeks to stay in like some like high class hotel room to spend all of his money, and he had like this older woman who was in like her 30s be his like girlfriend or whatever, and like she didn't know he was like underage because he never took the mask off, and they had some fucking weird thing going on. And then also in the middle of all that, which sounds like really real and down to earth, they just like, hey, let's have some Fantastic Four storylines cut in on this. So they're in the middle of like this like just this down to earth like regular old dinner conversation scene when suddenly a giant monster from a Fantastic Four story bursts in, and then the thing's like fighting it, and Peter has to help him lift rubble off civilians and stuff. That shit was crazy. No, she wasn't a hooker, for the person in the chat asking that. She was like a female wrestler or something that just like thought Peter was awesome, mostly because he was just the winner at the time. Because I guess I think there was some dumbass thing where like he lost a wrestling match and then she like didn't want to talk to him anymore. Fucking weird.
Sounds so fucking dumb.
I've wanted to make like the canon like ultra version of Spider-Man's origin that has all of this stuff. Yeah. So like, because there's also another story that explains like what happened in the few hours after Uncle Ben died, and like the whole following day, and like Peter like pulls a bunch of people out of a building fire and then throws up all for himself from the nervousness. Like goes home and sleeps in his costume, and Aunt May doesn't like check in on him. There's also like another retcon where
remember when we were supposed to be talking about Batman for this stream?
Shut up. There's a book that was drawn by Steve Dillon where like they're at one of the anniversaries of Uncle Ben's death, and then Aunt May is like, I remember you didn't come home until like several hours later, and I was like, what the hell were you doing? And I figured just like, you know, you needed some space. And he's like, nah, I was doing Spider-Man and stuff. I caught the. But then also there was another retcon in one of the fucking Spectacular Spider-Man issues where Aunt May followed the police to the standoff at the warehouse and saw Spider-Man jump out and like drop the guy covered in webs. It's so complicated. There's like they just keep going back to this origin and covering it in like 15 different ways.
I really hate that, like, when comic book writers try to do something like that. Like, as much as I love Donny Cates and his stories, the thing I don't like about what he did with the symbiote is he tried to go back and give it this, like, super elaborate story when it didn't need one. It's like, wouldn't, oh, I can't get it out. Wouldn't, I can't get it out.
You can do it, you can do it. I believe
Use your big boy words.
I'm getting it out. Stop interrupting. Would it not have been simpler to just fucking have the symbiote be this like alien organism that was written the way it was written originally without like changing a lot about it?
Okay,
like, I don't know.
You know
I
what?
feel like overcomplicating things isn't.
I like the retcons. I like the idea of giving them a definitive origin. Because, okay, the reason I like Donny Cates' retcon about the Venom stuff is because it was fixing another worst retcon that sucked ass. Okay, so, like, there's this group of, like, evil symbiotes called the Heretics that, they were called the Heretics retroactively, but they run around the universe just, like, completely sucking the life out of planets and just, like, killing people by the planet load, and Venom was apparently rolling with those guys for a little while, and then was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm into this. I like helping people a little bit. So they locked him up and imprisoned him, and like this symbiote is like a busted aberration. We don't want him in our ranks. And then he accidentally got swept up when Beyonder was like taking stuff to make into Battle World.
Right.
And then, you know, Spider-Man finds him, the rest of history. Those guys come to Earth, and then Carnage kind of kills them all to use them to make himself tougher. It's a whole thing. And then, like, way later, when Eddie Brock stopped being Venom, and it was Flash Thompson doing it, fucking, he was a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, because I guess that they just needed something new to do with Flash Thompson, so he decided to hang out with them for a little while. Yeah. And the symbiote starts going crazy and like infecting everyone on the ship and jumping from person to person. It's like, I'm having a fit right now, fellas. Please help. So they take him to the symbiote home, and it's actually just a giant planet made of symbiotes, like just a big ball of them, trillions of them in space. And then they like heal him and are like, oh yeah, with impurities from like bad hosts.
Hey, you know what? I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. You guys keep talking.
Okay.
Alright.
So anyway, the symbiotes on the homeworld are like, yeah, symbiotes all good guys, and they're all just a bunch of like swell hero fellas who love helping people. Supposed to be, we're actually all space knights and good guys. And then Donny Cates was like, okay, I don't like that because that makes them not scary anymore. Fuck that. How about instead that group of symbiotes was lying and the Heretics were what they originally were doing, but they tried to like become good in spite of Null. So like instead Null is at the center of the symbiote homeworld, and the whole planet is a cage of other symbiotes built around him to hold him in place.
Huh.
Which is awesome. And the word Clintar, which is like the symbiote, you know, the official species name, actually translates to cage, because it's the planet Clintar, and like, the suits themselves are cages.
Yeah.
So like,
I've read all of this, but like,
it makes the symbiotes scary and sinister again, because the idea of being like, oh yeah, they're all good guys, and they're basically just like fucking space Power Rangers who love everyone, was stupid. It sucked, and it ruined everything cool about those games. And then Donny Cates came along and fixed it.
Well, okay, here's the thing. When I use Donny Cates as an example, I'm not meaning just him. I'm just using him as an example because like that's as far as my knowledge of symbiote retcons go. Like as far as it being super elaborate. Like I know it happened in the past, but like Donny Cates' fucking Venom run is what I'm like most. But just like retconning the symbiotes in general, like I'm not a fan of it. Just leave it the way it was. You didn't need to retcon it at all. I'm talking about like the first group of group of creative team who decided to retcon. I don't know if it was that necessary. Like I would have.
It's like
if it was.
Like every like new Alien movie tries to give a fucking origin story to the xenomorphs. It's like, what's scarier? It's like we don't know the origin story. Just leave it up to imagination. They're just some species that evolved in space to be really fucked up and scary. We don't need to know. Oh shit. Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's up on my end.
It's back.
Okay.
Sorry, I cut you
a little bit.
It just said stream offline. And
How?
Oh.
Huh.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, anyway, the xenomorphs in Alien are a scary species that are like super versatile and can just kill and hunt in any environment, basically. And like every new Alien movie tries to give a definitive origin for what created them, and it gets dumber every time. It's like, oh, this previous species that was like hyper advanced engineered them as a bioweapon. And it's like they decided to take a step further. It was like an android found that bioweapon and decided to experiment with it on an empty planet and then make the perfect version of the xenomorph. And it's just like more and more iterations of crazy bullshit to explain how these things just are around in the universe. And none of them are interesting or as fun as just we don't know. Like the whole scariness of the first one is the unknown. You find the aliens on the ship and you're like, oh shit, they have this crazy, disgusting birth cycle that is basically a big metaphor for sexual assault. That's terrifying. You don't need to know why or how. You don't need to know that they're a role by Michael Fassbender made them.
Well, I mean, that's what I mean. Like a lot of stories and a lot of like just concepts don't need to be elaborated on and given this like elaborate backstory. Like the original story for the symbiote is just that. Like it's a fucking alien organism that went on Spider-Man's body, changed his spider logo. He took it to Earth and it turned it crazy, through one thing or another.
David,
like it doesn't need to
hi
be
David,
that.
are you back? You haven't said anything.
I wondered how long it would take for you to notice.
I mean, I know.
We did notice you were back. We were just like waiting for you to talk.
Woo.
This is like when you went to my first time and like I went to the bathroom and then you just moved a bunch of shit on my shelf.
Oh no, where's this going?
I wouldn't notice. You fucking sociopath.
I thought I was gonna go in a completely different direction.
Just see.
I'm glad I didn't.
Moved a bunch of stuff on my shelf to see if I would notice when I got back, and I did. Because I was like, why did you flip a bunch of my figures on my shelf around? And you're like, no.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I'll never tell. But yeah, some stories just don't fucking touch them. Like they just work the way they. You don't need to give them this really big fucking like unnecessary backstory and like fucking.
You know who else doesn't need an unnecessary? So anyway, I am working on a video where I can talk about how much weird bullshit there is in Star Trek Discovery. Because I don't think a lot of people outside of like hardcore Star Trek fans really actually watch Star Trek Discovery. Besides, there's only like 2 people in the world who are subscribed to CBS All Access. Sorry to CBS All Access if you're watching, but like nobody cares about that streaming service.
No offense, but no one fucking likes you. Nor does anyone care, you piece of shit.
Yep.
Whoa, what?
Look, I paraphrase what David said. All right, not my words. That's David's words. I just.
But it's okay to shit on corporations because capitalism and stuff.
I mean, I wasn't making a statement with that joke.
You needed to be making a statement with that joke, otherwise we're no longer friends.
Is that what you tell me,
My
Xavier?
parents hate me.
Do you give him that same treatment?
I do.
No, you don't. Oh, do you? Does he give you that same treatment, Xavier? Of like, you need to shit on corporations? Because if you don't, you're not my friend. Or is he doing it just to me?
Xavier?
I
I
feel
don't know.
discriminated against because of my Australianism.
I mean, to be fair, it is perfectly acceptable to discriminate against Australians.
I mean, like, Australians are fake. Like, they're not real.
I mean, it's a prison island, but like, you know, there's no one on there except spiders.
Yeah, I mean, like, Australians are fake. Australia's fake.
Australia is just like the greatest hoax ever told.
Yeah.
Australians did 9/11.
Is that why we didn't warn you, even though we're in the fucking future?
Yes.
Because we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey William, now that you're in the future,
Yeah.
does the rest of the stream go okay?
It's a bit hard to say.
'Cause you-
fucking up, like.
Why? Do you, like, stop watching after a while? You
I couldn't
narc?
tell you. What?
And by narc, I mean you're part of narcotrafico, no?
Don't know what you just said.
I just said I just called you a drug dealer, okay?
But... Oh, no.
This feels like kind of like the later half of a fucking episode of the podcast. You know,
Does it?
subject to change. Where it feels like the later half where we run out of things to talk about, so it's just David just like saying weird and confusing shit, and then me just kind of going, yeah.
Speaking of which,
All right.
when's the next episode of Subject to Change?
I don't know. Whenever. Like, not like either of us are that busy. I mean, I gotta get this Blade video done, but then, like, after that, whenever.
Well, I gotta work on a paper.
Ah, loser.
Yeah, I have to work. Yeah, because I left Spain. Instead of doing an actual finishing my actual class in person, I have to write a 15-page research paper instead, in Spanish. So that's gonna be fun.
Only 15 pages? Shit. I write 30-page essays for like the midterms in high school. Cry. Cry.
Wow.
You know what it's like. You felt
You
that
don't
struggle.
know what it's like to be the sad man.
What is happening right now?
Nobody knows what it's like to be David.
Yeah, if somebody could tell me what it's like to be me, I'd like to
To
know.
be the gay kid.
You can't see my face, but I'm like the equivalent of starstruck. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Somebody in the comments says that
But
says
I feel
that
like I'm high.
what? Okay, what was that, David?
somebody in the chat says he saw the documentary Mad Max. So like, what he's saying there is that that's basically what Australia is.
Yeah. Like William looks out of his window and just sees men with skeleton faces. Oh, also, this is the coolest scene in the game. I'm gonna shut up.
I turn
Your pee-pee hard?
David, tell us when the scene ends because it's gonna be awesome. Sonic High School's can't lie. Thank you for the
We need to do another Sonic High School. Unironically, that's gonna be
David,
amazing.
do this super hard boss fight.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever completely fully watching fanfic video. Like, I would watch like 5 minutes of it and I'd be like, nah, I'm done.
Who wants to show me where the penguin is?
Get David to fuck it up and do it in the least funny way possible, where he flips over the guy and then the cutscene starts anyway.
I'm noticing Arkham Origins is a lot of just
Did it wrong,
whatever
so
happens.
let's continue either way.
Yeah, it feels like a David Cage game.
What's that? It feels like a game that I would make? What are you talking about?
Yep, that's you, David Cage.
Yeah.
That explains why we're never in the same room. Because I'm in France and he's in the fake land called Australia.
That's right.
You know what's another fake country?
The good game.
England.
England's pretty good. Like it's England is my city.
Yeah, it's just a city. I don't get why people call it a country.
I apologize for that joke. I apologize for that.
Yeah, before you're bringing that back.
I know, that's why I apologize for it.
Better.
Yeah.
I'm
Man,
really
Lumen's
excited for
seems
David
really
to get to a
fun.
part. You know,
Yeah.
as much as I do think that whole electrocutioner thing was really funny, it's like directly stolen from Spider-Man 2.
You know what that? You know who that stole it from? Indiana Jones.
Well, yeah, you're right. Oh my God, you're so right.
I ain't telling you, Jack.
You know what he's talking about, William?
Yeah. I've seen Indiana Jones.
Imbiamba
That
Jones.
shit was awesome.
Indiana Jones. Oh, you watched that too, David?
Yes.
Do you know what we're talking about, Xavier?
Tracy.
Indiana Jones.
Indiana, what, huh?
Imbiamba Jones. Okay, I'll fucking send it to you.
I don't want to. I feel like this is one of those dumbass Batman Potaman things. I don't know if I want to know.
I mean, it's not that bad. It's fine.
Are you excited for Indiana Jones 5 to be directed by the director of Logan?
Okay. Because, like, if he handles it like how he handled Logan, that could be kind of good. But I don't know.
I don't know if anybody wants like a depressing, introspective Indiana Jones movie. That's not what you want when you want an Indiana Jones movie. You want a fun romp.
Yeah.
You don't want a depressing, I'm old and sad and on death's door movie.
That works with like Logan because he has like the dramatic depth of that character, but like Indiana Jones isn't that kind of guy.
A fun action romp about like a guy who's an unobtainable ideal and more of a caricature of an adventurer. Like, he's not a very deep or dramatic character. He's just kind of like Indiana Jones is like a human cartoon character. Like he kind of exists in a sort of hyper reality. So trying to do a really depressing story with him just kind of wouldn't work. So I don't know. Oh, you fucked up your slide tackle thing, but because we have a stream delay, you probably did that like 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, you're right.
You was right.
Hey Xavier, are there any good Iron Man comics? I can't seem to find any. Almost like the character doesn't have any. Well,
Looks like it's part of a
yeah.
larger set. If I can collect enough of these, I should
I'm
be
sure
able to
there's like
survive.
3 good Iron Man comics. They're out there.
There's one of them, and there's another one, and then there's a third one.
Yeah. Way to really add on to my joke. It was awesome.
I please to aim.
Demon in a Bottle is one of the 3 good ones. And then there's that. Wow, look at that chunk of ice. That's just like. Did you see that?
I did see that.
I did.
That was embarrassing.
That was embarrassing. It was cool, but it was embarrassing.
Iron Ninja says the only part that saddens me about Indy 5 is that the Paramount logo won't be shown in a clever way or even
True.
shown at all. Oh yeah, because doesn't Disney own the rights now?
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what? What if it's the Disney castle turns into something?
That would be real dumb.
That's probably exactly what they're gonna do. It's gonna be the Disney castle fucking logo turns into like a rock face, like a
Okay, like
shaped like the Disney.
the only good version of that was in the Tron movie.
Disney doesn't own Paramount, they just own Indiana Jones now. They just bought it.
Imbiamba Jones.
Indiana Jones.
You know what? Arkham Knight was really missing like these sections. There was fucking none of those. There was none of those in that game. Just some good old fashioned like climbing sequences where you gotta get through some kind of
The Uncharted sequences.
Yeah, like those are a nice little. I feel like those help the pacing because you're not punching more dudes. You're not solving another dumbass complicated detective mode puzzle. You feel like you're progressing and you're like exploring through some like really interesting and cool looking levels and areas. You know, like it's engaging, but not because it's like super actiony. It's because it's like something calm and kind of like toned down to give the action moments more breathing room. Well, as an Arkham Knight, it's just tank punch, tank punch, tank punch, tank stealth, tank punch, stealth punch.
You know, it's
like
entirely
nothing
surprising
ever.
that you don't like that game. It's not like you made a video about it or anything.
I mean, it's
Arkham
just
Knight,
poorly
like
designed. Like, you have all of like,
everyone
this
always
awesome
says,
level
"Oh,
of
it has the best gameplay of the series." No, it fucking doesn't. If you think that, you didn't pay attention.
I mean,
Like, it looks the best graphically. That's all it has going for it.
Gloves put out a strong electromagnetic pulse.
yeah.
Isolate the signal, I'll be able to track him down.
I'll get to work on that. Where are you off?
Xavier, did you hear that Tom Holland will be Nathan Drake? I
Yes.
did, and I feel like that's a terrible decision, and that like that movie's dead on arrival, and I hope it continues to get delayed forever and becomes the new Gambit starring Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum.
Channing Tatum. It wasn't even like a play of words on my part. That's what I thought you said. Like, legitimately.
Hollow Man says, "Wait, Xavier makes videos?" Yes, I do indeed, Kevin Bacon. I've made a couple videos in my time. Yeah, they're yeah. I've been told they're pretty good. If you want to check those
I
out.
thought you did. I thought you wanted to, but never got around to doing it.
Oh, I've been procrastinating, but recently I made like one or two. Like I've heard good things.
You heard good things from your mom.
Yeah,
Because she's the only one who watches them.
It sounded like a
was like-
fucking insult.
she was like, "Dude, I can't believe you've just played Spider-Man PS4 footage in the background while talking with no script for 18 minutes. That took a lot of work." And I'm like, "Thanks, Mom. I'm the leafiest hero of Spider-Man."
Oh no. This is drama. Please,
How do you mean
have
by
more drama.
Like, what's the comparison?
Someone in a comment once said, and this was like ages ago, back when he was still like relevant. Someone said, "Wow, this guy's like the Leafy of Spider-Man," and I was like, "What gives you that correlation other than the fact that we just both have young-sounding voices? Like, there is a dramatic difference in the level of effort between me and a Leafy video."
The casino. Penguin's assistant must be nearby.
Yeah,
I'll make
like,
her
what
tell
the
me where
fuck?
to find Cobblepot's office.
Someone also said I reminded them of Ralph the Movie Maker, fucking Ralph Sepp.
I mean,
Him
like,
and I have
that's...
completely different
I mean,
senses of humor.
it's, like,
completely
closer.
different, like, I would say format-wise, yes, but like personality-wise, like I don't really see it.
Uh-huh. I mean, I had a friend in college who was basically just... He had the exact same, like, sensibilities as Ralph does. He sounds completely different, but he had the exact same sense of humor. It was really weird.
In fact, I
You guys
saw
read it.
someone comment on one of your videos. Oh, what'd you do? Why did you hit your desk?
No, I went to like raise my arm and then fucking smack my desk.
Okay.
Yeah, just if anyone was concerned, if I highly doubt it, but you know, just in case. I love how David just fucking walks into the crossfire.
That's just how I roll.
Like, oh yeah, this guy's got a gun to my head. Hello.
I mean, wouldn't be
Yeah,
more
Batman.
wouldn't more action movies be more fun if that's the way they did things?
Debatable.
Oh, look at that ragdoll. That was awesome. You just kicked that guy, and then he didn't know which way to fall, so then he just fell straight down.
What a fucking breakdance move, man.
That was tubular.
Totally tubular, dude.
Yeah, bruh. I wonder if, like, the lady who organized all these dudes to come and punch me, like, saw what I did downstairs and she thinks that maybe suddenly a smaller group of dudes in a smaller room is suddenly going to be the answer.
Well, because it's like, it's less spread out, so it's like, for Batman. So, like, also, if we have more guys in the room, it's like, more things for him to punch, so less guys means less guys for him to knock out, which means we'll win. You know?
You
Like,
sound like a
basically, all we gotta do is, like, put him in one really small room with one guy, and it's like, what's he gonna do, you know? Like, at that point, he's fucking, just owned.
I can't tell if you're doing the accent on purpose, or if it's like...
I was just doing an impression of you if you were a surfer guy.
Entrance is controlled from that
Oh, okay.
security room.
Yeah, so like,
gotcha. Take
he walks
that.
into the room...
Whoa, that
and
guy
then
went
like, he
flying!
sees
You
him
kicked that guy, and then he just, like, slid across the room. That was cool. That was, like,
Even with
like
this
a
pass, I
complete
can't open this
accident
door.
and was not
Find a
animated
way
that
with
way at all, but
security
it
code to
looked
access
cool.
the theater.
Happy accidents.
Are you talking about Bob Ross now?
What if Bob Ross was a game developer?
What if Bob Ross was a gamer?
What if Bob Ross was a game?
Imagine if Bob Ross was a gamer to be like, so sorry guys, I just had to have my heated gamer moment there.
Is that
Bob
why
Ross isn't a gamer. He was nice to women. He loved black people so much he had one of their haircuts. That's not a gamer.
What did this conversation turn into?
I feel like the weird thing is I can't pick up who I would offend more with that statement. Was that a thing that would offend black people or gamers more? Who did I piss off? I don't know.
I feel like that's your sense of humor in a nutshell, Xavier. You like,
I'm never offensive to one group. I just shit on everyone in the same sentence.
and then everybody's so confused that they laugh out of like awkward confusion.
No one knows if they're supposed to be angry, so they just aren't.
Should I be offended at this? Like, is that a precedent attack? I mean, he offended,
I don't know.
Huh?
He was also angry at the group that hates me, so, like, he's not on their side either.
How am I supposed to feel?
David, just press the fucking button with your hand.
It literally
battering
had
at it.
use. Oh, okay.
He throws a battering at it and then walks away.
Oh man, this is the best fucking scene coming up.
David,
If only we had a sequel to expand on such a gameplay.
David, do you watch Philosophy Tube? I don't know. I watch him every once in a while. I'm subscribed to him, but he's not like my favorite of the left tubers.
Who? I kind of zoned out because Josh messaged me.
You don't watch him.
Watch who?
A YouTuber called PhilosophyTube.
Oh.
He's like a British YouTuber who does like a lot of like left-leaning videos, but he does it from like a somewhat philosophical standpoint.
Do the gamers hate women, or do they just hate their mom?
According to Freud, there's not really a difference between the two.
Freud was a fucking... he was a mad lad.
You know what I say about Freud? Sigmund Freud? Analyze this. He was the original neckbeard.
Sigmund Freud is like the king of projection.
That's only something you say if you haven't read Sigmund Freud, by the way.
Alright, okay, sure.
Oh,
Alright,
like a
thanks.
book or a person?
I feel like that's one of the most pretentious things you've ever said to me personally.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm unsubscribing from your news. Honestly,
I'm uninviting you for my birthday party.
Yeah, that's like the 5th time this year. We're doing better than 2019, where I uninvited you like 16 times.
Yeah.
Did you?
Do you guys watch My Hero Academia? No.
No.
Academy. No, I don't. I'm not an anime person. Although my friends have been recommending it to me, I
think I saw Diego tweeting about watching it a while ago, but I don't watch that much anime.
I don't know. It's not. Yeah, I mean, I've watched like the first 2 episodes like twice, and both times they just never really like caught me. So I never really got into it much beyond that. Xavier, do you watch the Harley Quinn show? I actually just watched the whole thing over like twice in like the span of 2 weeks. So I watched it with my dad, and then I watched it with Anna. I watched it twice. So what does that tell you?
I don't know. Like, maybe you were bored like one day. And you're like,
no, it's actually decent. Like it has a. You know what? I actually really like the sense of humor. The trailers did a massive disservice to it. It's like the trailers just were like a weird supercut of every time something vulgar happens. But like, and again, it was also weird because all those clips were like really from like the first 2 episodes as well. It's but yeah, the humor is a lot more clever than they gave it credit.
See you
for.
later, you
really
coke. See you later, Spider Chad.
Spider Chad.
See you
Thank
later,
you.
Spider Chad.
And then as for like the rest of the show, there's a lot of really cool like subtle sort of like nerdy Batman references, like just jokes that like you only jokes and characters and stuff that I feel like you'd only really get if you just like knew Batman lore. Not like, you know, like you have to be an expert on it, but just like if you're more than a casual fan, you will get something out of it too.
Right. Okay.
And there's some cool action sequences. I feel like even though he's like not the same character at all, because this is like a more comedy-oriented version, this show's version of Clayface is like my fucking favorite version of that character. He is so funny.
What makes him different to the other ones?
Well, because he's like, instead of being like a criminal and like this guy who's like, oh, I'm deformed and disgusting and I have to, you know, run around being a serial killer and like hiding in plain sight and all that kind of typical stuff that you know Clayface for. Instead, he's just like a really hacky, bad actor who is like really dedicated to his craft and is every chance he gets, because he's like on Harley Quinn's team. He's like a recurring character, and any chance he gets, he tries to argue like, okay, you should let me go in and I'll be this character with an extremely elaborate backstory, and like turns into them and then just starts listing off every fucking like minute fact about their life, and they're like, okay, all right, we got it. And he's just like, he's just this hacky bad actor, and like, whenever he's disguised as someone, he's always still got his same voice, which makes it funnier. And he keeps like, but he's like disguising his voice like he's a talented voice actor, but he keeps slipping back into his original accent. So he's disguised as Batman, but then just starts talking like Clayface again every once in a while. There's just a lot of really good gags with his powers and like the jokes they do with him. Like at one point he goes undercover at like a college and pretends to be like a teenage girl, and he's like super good at it and is already like in like a complicated love triangle with a couple of guys and also like the popular girl at school and like all kinds of stuff. And then he's telling Harley and Ivy about this, and they're like, "Will you shut the fuck up? You're a giant mud monster." I love what they did with Clayface, because like I went into that show knowing that if I can't expect it to be Batman the Animated Series, and that's a unrealistic, stupid ass expectation, I should go in expecting, okay, what's the most clever and fun way to parody each of these characters? So like the like Bane. He talks like Tom Hardy Bane from the Dark Knight Rises movie.
Yeah.
Is just hilarious. Like he has like a lot of really funny lines. They really play up the fact that he's constantly just blowing things up. They make the Joker more of just like an asshole narcissist that like is trying too hard to be like a clown themed villain. They have like the Riddler be like just a. There's certain characters that aren't even like changed at all. They're just a really exaggerated version of themselves. Like Batman is like. Pretty
Oh
much
look,
just
it's the
Batman,
only good part of the game.
Oh hell yeah! I can't wait for Arkham Knight to fuck this up.
I can't wait for it to make it so much better by battling.
Okay, like I didn't like this game very much, but this part was a lot of fun.
This boss fight is fucking sick.
Also, notice how the fucking sword that Batman, the one that he throws just magically appears back in his sheath. I'm fucking tripping today, Jesus Christ.
Just like remember how much better this is than like the Arrow version of this character.
Oh god. And he had an Australian accent.
Crikey, mate.
Okay.
Crikey, Oliver, I'm gonna kick your fucking ass, con.
I'll kick your fucking ass, cunt.
But like my favorite part of the the actor who plays the actor who does play Slade Wilson in that TV show, he's like in another TV show, like a real shitty a fantasy TV show like the Shannara Chronicles or something, except like he's like the Gandalf character, except like instead of being an epic, instead of being an old wise man, he's just like a mopey 30-something with like a really edgy like haircut. That was like you.
I also like how, for like fans of Deathstroke, you knock his mask off and you get to see him with, because like weirdly enough, I feel like him without his mask is just as iconic with him wearing it. Like he has such a specific like character design from like him and Wolverine. I think are the two most visually distinct and recognizable guys without their mask.
Funny,
You know?
I was gonna say Nick Fury. Like, he doesn't have a mask. It's the icon.
Yeah,
It's definitely the icon.
well, because if
And the
you
white
take off Nick Fury's eye patch, he's just Mr. Fantastic.
Really? Oh yeah, because of the
the
white streaks.
The white
Some
crown.
like, yeah. I don't know
there's
why, but I
like
feel
there's a
it's
lot
Nick
of
Fury for some-
same face problems with because like Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent look really similar, and like artists have a very difficult time drawing them in a way that distinguishes them. So much so that like certain like writers have made it into a joke. It's like, wow, Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne look really similar. But like beyond that, like even stuff that like really should be like a no-brainer is an issue. Like Eddie Brock and Steve Rogers look really similar from certain artists. Like it's because the art style is kind of ever changing, you know, because there's so many different artists taking these characters. A lot of characters end up kind of looking exactly like each other. It's like, oh, generic blonde guy with black eyebrows, or generic white guy with a square jaw and black hair. So like, Deathstroke has such a unique and recognizable face design that like you can always just tell it's him from looking at him. Yeah. So I thought it was really cool that they have his mask get knocked off halfway through this fight, because like that's also an important look for that character.
Smart. Yeah, it's a really cool way they did it as well. It's like it's not like, oh,
fucking found his helmet. He found his helmet and put it back on just to fucking bird dog your corpse.
Yep.
Oh yeah, every Robin looks exactly the same. I remember there was this, because like even some of the best artists out there have a hard time with this. The Robins all look so similar that if you have them in a room together and they're not wearing their masks, they all look like the same guy. Like the only thing that you can distinguish them based on is like subtle differences in their haircuts and like height. There's a scene in fucking New 52 Batman where all of the Robins are in one room together, and like it has to label them individually so you can tell them apart.
Huh. I feel like the only show that didn't have a problem with that is the fucking animated series. Because like Grace Robin and what is it, Tim Drake Robin looks so fucking distinct. Like it looks so different.
Oh yeah, they have super distinct designs from each other, and then also, I mean, another factor is that they cut Jason Todd out to make it less complicated. But
hey, remember when Joe Manganiello or whatever his name was gonna be Deathstroke in like Batman in like Justice League, but then like something else happened?
That makes me so sad, because like Flash Thompson from Spider-Man 1 was Deathstroke.
No,
remember that?
Joe.
No, I'm ignoring it.
I know. Okay.
Fuck you. No, I'm not gonna give you the time of day.
Fuck you. You got. Okay, I was gonna say you got no sense of humor. That's not true. You have.
But yeah, that Deathstroke costume, that was one of the best costumes the characters ever had, was the one he had in Justice League.
It's because it was literally Arkham Origins.
Yeah, it was just this suit! They just used this, basically.
Yeah.
And then, fucking, the actor looked great, like, because he took off his mask and he was just like, holy shit, that's Deathstroke, right? And like, God, I'm so mad that they didn't get any chance to use him. I really wish that they would just, for something, like, I'm hoping Suicide Squad 2 uses him, like, just pulls him back, and then you don't even have to explain what happened with, like, Lex Luthor, because I know you just want to ignore that forever now, but, like, just give us that Deathstroke, because he looked great.
Yeah.
These are cool animations, by the way.
Yeah, I fucking loved that.
Cool gadget.
It is.
Yeah.
Even though it's literally like the line launcher, but like just like a derivative version of the line. I can't fucking speak today. Jesus Christ, I hate my fucking.
Well, okay. The problem with that is that like it's a derivative from the point of view of this as a sequel, but because this is a prequel, that's really stupid because it's a better gadget than one Batman invents later. So, like, he made a shittier version of that thing in the next 5 years before Asylum happened.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, if they just disconnected that from the Arkham timeline, everything would have made perfect sense. Like, you wouldn't have to have you wouldn't have to ask all of these questions about like why is this fucking
Why is
behind them
Batman
the one that came
so
later?
much shittier 5 years later? Like, detective mode doesn't work as good.
I mean, I have a hot.
Gadgets aren't nearly as intuitive.
I mean, I have a hot take about that, which is that every franchise should follow the Mad Max rule, which is nobody cares about canon. Just like tell individual stories and leave it at that.
It's not canon, it's continuity.
I don't give a
Pay
shit.
attention. Well,
You
fuck
know
too.
what? I still love that Mad Max Fury Road does not give a fuck about continuity at all. Also, it throws in enough of an Easter egg to make it, like, to also satisfy the people who do care about it, is the fact that Tom Hardy is just playing the kid from Mad Max 2. That's so cool. It's like, okay, in Mad Max 2, he meets this feral child who's, like, grown up in the post-apocalypse, who is, like, can't speak and just grunts and acts like a dog, basically. And, like, the original Mad Max, played by Mel Gibson, kind of, like, takes care of this child through that movie a little bit.
Yeah.
And gives him this little music box that was, like, it's like a little music box with like a dancer inside when you open it. It plays this little sweet little tune. And it was like something left over from his previous life, and he gives it to this kid, and then he never sees that kid again, right? But in Mad Max Fury Road, which takes place because like the original Mad Max took place during the apocalypse.
You know, you're like,
and then
you're like arguing against the point that I was just making. I just wanted you to know that.
I know. I'm saying that movie did a cool thing, and I'm explaining why, and I appreciate.
And I disagree with that.
Anyway.
And I'm saying you can do that just on your own time. Just like argue about your stupid lore thing that nobody cares about on your own time. I'm gonna say my world is better because I was better when I didn't know about that.
I thought that was cool. Okay, let me finish explaining it. Before you, like, do that on your own time. Well, anyway, so like Mad Max Fury Road takes place like even in its own story. It's like, yeah, the apocalypse happened like a couple decades ago now. Like shit's been this way for a while, which doesn't make sense for how old Max is in that one, right? But then, at one point, another character finds the music box in the back of his car, and like, it starts like kind of clicking together, like the reason why this version of Max is like even less talkative, and also apparently has a different backstory, which like, because like Max Rockatansky is like sad over the loss of his wife and son. But the one in Fury Road is like mourning over a daughter. That doesn't make sense. So there's like a big disconnect there. But it turns out it's just that like the kid from Mad Max 2 decided to grow up and try and emulate the original Max, and like he just kind of invented his own version of the tragic backstory about the dead family, even though it wasn't the same one. And like that's why he still has the music box in his car. Like he just invented his persona to be this guy that like came into his life 20 years ago.
I'm saying that's a bad theory.
It's in they confirmed it. It's not a theory.
I'm saying it's still bad. It's like my life is better when I don't have to think about the canon. Like
it's like
what?
I'm not super invested in canon stuff either, but like I like stuff like that. I like little Easter eggs and little things that mean you put more thought into it than none at all.
I mean, if a movie requires you to watch, like,
I'm saying like
installments,
like
It's none of those movies are necessarily like connected, other than just the same character and setting, basically.
Yeah. So,
you know, they're all kind of one-off stories, but the fact that they put that in there is just like a really nice. I'm just appreciating it because they didn't have to do that, and I feel like it showed initiative on their part that they did put it in.
I think you're just confusing Easter eggs with, like, meaningful things.
It's over.
Hey, you can turn on that explosive gel and knock him down. I think that'd be cool. Oh, I think you beat the boss before you can do that.
You did beat the boss before you can do that. Let you break this.
Weird, like,
yeah, look at that cutscene. Look at that. Oh yeah. Holy
his
shit.
health
Look.
doesn't go all the way down. It goes like really close to down, and then
Well, yeah, because it kind of needs to not go down for this cutscene to make sense. Otherwise, like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't he be unconscious? Now it went down. Fucking love this cutscene. He knocks him out with his own sword handle. That's fucking badass.
Bad
you
offs.
can see his helmet laying on the floor over there.
David, don't try to mock me fucking accent, cunt.
Yes.
Deathstroke's device to get up to the balcony.
Yes. I love how that's a response to anything now. Hey, what's yes? So what would you like today? Yeah, like going to order fast food.
I mean, if I did that...
Anyway, I feel like this game peaked at the Deathstroke fight and never quite recovers. Like, it doesn't get bad necessarily, but it never, like... That shit was hype, and it never gets back to that level of, holy fuck, I'm Batman. You know?
Yeah.
You just kind of...
I feel like
that
90% of the
radicalness.
budget went on that boss fight. It's like, let's try to make this
I
the
like
best
the
fucking boss
stupid
fight
ass
ever.
reason that I love the stupid ass reason that these games came up with for why
See if you can find
Penguin
any
always
information
has a
on Arkham
monocle on
Knight's
in the future installments is that it's actually a broken bottle that's lodged in his head. And doctors say that it would kill him if they removed it.
Well, no, that's only in the Arkham, like, that's only in Arkham City. Where he used
Yeah, I know. I'm
the-
saying like that. I thought that was a cool but stupid thing in this series. Is like,
Oh, right, yeah.
Here's an explanation for why he's got a monocle on always. It's not a monocle. It's a broken bottle lodged in his skull.
Man, like I said, I miss Boldy. Guy was a fucking
Yeah.
great writer. And imagine
Alright.
how differently Arkham Knight would have. Shit.
Would have been great. It
Would've
wouldn't.
been
It wouldn't have used the unused script for the sequel to Batman and Robin and or like Batman Forever. The
Yeah.
unused script for the sequel to that as a base.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it was. Like all that shit with like Joker coming back from Fear Toxin. It would have been Jack Nicholson Joker coming back via Fear Toxin. And
yeah.
like, Two-Face and Penguin would be played by their respective actors, Tommy Lee Jones and fucking Danny DeVito from this. Like, it would have been like a big like closer for the series.
What? That would have been
Like,
so weird.
Okay,
Yeah.
Arkham Knight is just the unused plot for the sequel to Batman and Robin, and that is the worst thing ever. The only thing that they changed was like originally in that like unused fucking Harley Quinn was Joker's like long lost daughter who wanted to avenge him, but instead they just made her like Harley. But everything else was pretty much the same, and it's like terrible. Because like they were gonna have Scarecrow be the main villain. They also, I mean, you know, none of the Jason Todd Arkham Knight stuff was in there. That was added. The fact that just like, I swear to God, Jason Todd was just put in the game so that they could have a character named Arkham something or other, so that the title could have Arkham, because they had no idea. No earthly idea how to have the title be Arkham other than that.
They had so many fucking different, like, names for it. Like, Arkham World popped up a couple of times during, like, the rumor of, like, the next Batman game. They could have fucking easily used that. Like, they wouldn't have needed to come up with a character. It's just like, yeah, it's Arkham World, whatever. Like, it's got a double meaning. It's got, like, the implication that it's, like, it's the world of Arkham.
The Arkham.
And it's also got the meaning of, like, Arkham is literally in the fucking world. Like criminals are roaming the streets. Would have been a kick-ass title. They wouldn't have needed to make a fucking not even make a new character, recycle a pre-existing character. And
Okay,
write
so
it
where am
through
I going
just to make it
here?
interesting. You gotta get out.
I don't know, but I'll tell you where I'm going. Is I just found out that dinner's done, and I haven't eaten since like 8 hours ago, so I'm starving. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I gotta
go
get back to my
now.
work as well.
And I'll probably also get back to work on editing.
So perhaps it would
But
be a
it
good
was-
time to wrap up the stream now, then.
Because we got to the
Perhaps, yes.
coolest thing. Like,
We did
everything
get-
else after this is going to be fucking downhill from here. Hi, 2D Swirl. Your art is really cool, and I think you're a swell fella. Feel free to DM me more often.
He's a fell sweller. We approve of those.
I've seen them around the Twitter. Yeah, you got
Well,
some really cool
really,
art, man.
because
I
awesome
like your
art.
shit. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff.
So what you're saying is that you're going to go back to editing at 10 p.m. on Friday night.
Yep, 'cause
Kian
that's-
wants me to say something about Kian. Hi, Kian.
Hello.
I see you, bro.
Hello,
I would
Kian.
be-
Welcome.
Yeah, that's the trouble of having YouTuber as your job, is that you don't ever fucking clock out. You wake up and you work, and then you work until you go to bed. And if you're not working, you feel bad. You wake because you're not working.
That's
You
called
make
being
your own
self-employed. It's not just a YouTuber
Kian,
thing.
Kian is an
Sucks.
awesome guy.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pedantic Man.
Yeah.
Alright, I'm gonna go to your house. I'm gonna knock over all the books in your house.
Don't you fucking dare.
Like-
How dare you break
All the
quarantine for this?
Well, the joke behind that is that David's house is like 80% books, so it'll just be a massacre.
And
In
if-
fact, I feel
and
like
if
part
all
of the
the-
structural integrity of the house is stacks of books.
Yeah, and he would be burying me.
That's a load-bearing book stack.
Then it'd be like the ending of Infinity War, where it's just like in the Soul Stone, and then Gamora asks Thanos, was it worth it? But instead it's fucking Xavier and David.
Was it worth it to get back at me for just being kind of snotty to you on a live stream? Yes!
Yeah.
I knocked over your house! It's totally worth it, bro!
Bayback's a bitch. You sound like what's his name from regular show?
Maybe next time you won't make fun of me for liking things about Mad Max that are understated.
Your mom.
Alright, bye,
I don't-
bitches.
what's
Love
his
you.
name?
Alright, bye, y'all. See you later.
Bye!
And see ya, guys. Thanks for having me on the stream. Fuck.